All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here. Mark P Markets. Thank you for watching another Bitcoin video analysis session. If you're new here, welcome. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me explain to you how this is going to work. So first, I'm going to run through the economic calendar to see what type of events we have this week that we should be aware of to better manage risk. Second, we're going to go over the Bitcoin chart that you could see here on my screen. I'll make it bigger. And we're going to basically review the analysis that I published yesterday on TradingView. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but we're going to talk about the levels, the key levels for this week and what to anticipate. And then we're going to get into the TradeScanner Pro portion. Now, here's a new thing that I'm going to try with the TradeScanner Pro section. I've been planning to do a pre-market stream. I just haven't scheduled one yet, but I would like to do one. And what I want to show you today is sort of what that would look like. We're going to use the TradeScanner Pro to find potential setups that may be good for tomorrow. And we're not going to look just at Bitcoin. We'll look at stocks. We'll look at Forex pairs. So if you want to, if there's a stock or a Forex pair or something that you want to, if you're curious about, put it in the chat, and then maybe we'll have a moment to get to that and see if there's anything worth looking at for tomorrow. And I'll explain the whole process as we get there, okay? So with that, let's get started. So let me just pull up my special slide here. Just give me a moment. So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor, okay? And now, first things first, let me just explain really quick. Let me say hello to my regulars. We got, hey, Monica, good to see you. Okay, we got Stian, of course. We got Lad, Kai, good to see you guys, all my regular people. Now, another thing, if you're new, check out the links in the description. The first link that you will see is the free trial for the TradeScanner Pro. All right, I'll explain more about that as we go, but if you'd like a 14-day free trial, the link is there. And again, you can cancel that at any time. But if you don't cancel, after the 14 days, you'll get billed, okay? And there are no refunds. It explains it in the FAQs. So please be responsible for the things that you sign up for. Anyway, second thing in there, you'll notice we have Trade of the Week. Now, what that is it's the TradeScanner bot, which is the same concept as the TradeScanner, except it's a simplified version, and it sends out a signal by email each week. It could be a stock one week, it'll be a coin one week, it'll be a Forex pair. It rotates each week. So if you want to have an idea of what the TradeScanner is like on a larger time frame, it'll send you a trade by email. So you can sign up for that. That's free. Also, we have a Discord community. There's a free chat in there, and Alex does a great job moderating that. So if you have questions or you want to talk to some people about this sort of thing, we have that. So you can check that out. That's free. Also, if you're interested in signing up for TradingView, there's a link in the description for that. You can save $15. That is Stian's affiliate link. So he gets a small cut when you sign up for TradingView. You do not need TradingView to run the TradeScanner Pro. You don't need a premium version. You can use the free version. It's just that the premium version has some extra features that are nice to have. Like you can set up more notifications. You could look at more charts. There's things you can do with that. You could put more things on your charts. So, but it's not a requirement. Anyway, but it helps Stian out. Also, if you're interested in another exchange like Bybit or MEXC, there are affiliate links for that as well. And if you just want to support the community and you want to show your love and appreciation, there are 2 wallet addresses. There's one for Polygon, there's one for Ethereum. Those go to Stian as well. Stian, by the way, he's in the chat here. He's the guy that helped me develop the TradeScanner Pro and put it into a form that you guys can enjoy on your TradingView charts. He also built the bot. He also set up a lot of things. Okay, so if you want to show some appreciation, it goes a long way into helping him support the community, and that helps me out overall. Okay, so just wanted to mention that real quick. Now, let's get into the economic calendar, shall we? This week looks like a very quiet week. I only spotted, now there were a number of items on the calendar, but most of them were pretty much non-events. I saw things for Germany, I saw things for the ECB, I saw things for Australia, but these reports don't carry much weight. They're not dollar moving reports. And because of that, they usually don't really mean anything. So I wouldn't worry about any of those. Now, the only thing that really stood out was on Friday, we have Core PCE, Core Producer, I don't even know what it stands for. It's something like that. But it's of all the reports that we watch out for, it's like the least important. Also, I think on Thursday, or was it Wednesday, there was GDP annualized for the US. Again, GDP annualized is old information. It's not the type of information that's used to anticipate certain changes or like something that the Fed might act on, like non-farm payrolls or CPI reports or things like that. So I would judge this week as a very quiet week in terms of economic reports. There's really nothing major to worry about on that side of things. Now, one thing I have to mention about this environment is we are getting closer and closer to August. This is usually the worst time of year to trade, particularly day trade, because volume is generally shrinking. It's not like a linear thing, though. It's not like one day, it's lower and the next day it's lower and the next day it's lower. It's not like that. But average volume over time going into the third or fourth week of August usually declines. That's important, particularly if you're a day trader, because if you don't catch action at the open, the market open, for example, in the US, you're pretty much going to be stuck with really garbage price action or lack of follow through, a lot of quiet markets. It's typically not worth getting involved in. So you have to be very selective as far as your time. This is specific to day traders. Swing traders, nothing really changes a whole lot, except that it may take longer for setups to develop and things like that. You just want to be aware that we're in a lower volume environment, which means follow through is less likely. Sustained moves or sustained trends are less likely. Erratic movement is more likely. Things like that. Just something to keep in mind. Things get back to normal in terms of price action and momentum the second week of October. That's when volume starts to rise back up to normal. Please keep that in mind. I usually remind people about this every week. All right, next. So that's the economic calendar. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Let's move on to the chart here. And I'm going to make my chart bigger. Okay, now this chart here is my Bitcoin chart that I use to publish my TradingView article. Hopefully you read the article. The whole point of the article, hey Dom, the whole point of the article was basically to point out a couple of things. For one, my previous week, I talked about this level right here as a resistance. And even after the next day, when I was streaming on Monday, we were above that level. But my point was, that was a place to look for a confirmation. We never got one on this time frame. So there was no reason to go short, although the idea here initially was short resistance if you were looking for aggressive shorts on Bitcoin. This is where a tool like the TradeScanner Pro can be very helpful because it will give you the confirmation on the smaller time frame you're looking for. But more importantly, if you're wrong, like obviously if you shorted this and you stayed in that, you were wrong, the TradeScanner Pro shows you exactly how to limit your risk, which is really important for situations like this. Again, there's no way to know in advance how far this move, a breakout from here, is going to go. So that brings us to where we are now. And so we have some new levels to consider here. And this is going to be key for the next week, at least. 64K, which is basically here. And then 66K, 66 to 67, it actually went to 68 something yesterday. Those levels used to be supports back when Bitcoin was fooling around 73K. The levels broke over here, right? They became a resistance, basically, right? The 64K became a resistance. And then we broke again. We broke back up above, and now we retested it as a support. So we are above those levels. Well, we're at least above this level right now, and we're still fooling around within the vicinity of this level. So this is a key resistance area, okay? Going back, I drew some lines here, right? I mean, look, there was a reaction here, reaction here. There's some messy price action in here, but there's a lot of candle tails touching that general area. So the area is relevant. And that's important. When we look at history like that, that's important because one basic tenet of technical analysis is that history repeats itself. So for whatever reason, there is more selling action there, or for whatever reason, there's an absence of buying. That's an important note because people that buy now are taking the most risk, even though it looks good. Oh, this thing's strong. My fake guru said it's going to 100K. I'm going to buy it all right now. It's strong. You're buying the worst possible prices. I will always say that at highs, at swing highs. As we push, if we push into the 70K area, I'm going to be saying the same thing. So you say, well, what do we do? Do we go short? What do we do? It's going to depend on the time frame that you want to operate on, because a 1 minute trader or a day trader is not going to use this information the same way as someone who's looking for a swing trade. So it's very important first to decide what it is that you're trying to do. Are you looking to day trade or are you looking to swing trade? You must know that first before you do anything else, because that's going to shape the information going forward, how you use it. Now, so the levels here, again, we're at a resistance and we're getting some selling action here. As you can see, my anticipated move for the week is a pullback to 64K. I'm always going to draw pullbacks off of resistance levels. I can be wrong, right? But we need confirmation. Are we getting confirmation? So far on this time frame, we're getting a bearish candle. It hasn't closed yet, but that's a start, okay? A red candle is a start. Of course, it'd be nice if we took out the low of the candle. That pretty much would confirm that there's a selling move in play. Maybe we get a bearish pin bar. This right now is a bullish pin bar, but what makes it bearish is the fact that it's at a resistance. If this same pin bar was at a support level, then that would be meaningful on this time frame. But we can interpret this as a bearish sign because of the location. It begins with the location, not the candle. Candles can appear anywhere, randomly, any type of candle. So to sum this up, I'm anticipating selling action in this area and a retrace this week back into the 64K. Now, can it break 64K and break lower? It can, but that's not reasonable to anticipate right now because we have a bullish structure behind us. This is bullish, clearly, right? Short term. Although, when we zoom out a bit, nothing has changed really since March. We have a range low, we have our range high. These levels are still intact. We're just inside the range. So this area, again, there's been plenty of selling history in this area going back for a while. It's likely to retrace. So again, if you're a day trader, you're looking for short setups, trying to grab a day trade. A day trade can be typically 150 points, 200 points, maybe a little bit more. The Trade Scanner Pro defines that profit objective for you when you're on the time frame that you're trying to work on. That's a great thing about that. If you're looking for swing trades, you're working on an hourly chart, you're working on a 30-minute, perhaps a 4-hour chart, you're waiting for a setup there. Now, of course, the movement on a 4-hour chart is much more likely to capture the move back to 64K. So if you're looking for a broader move, that's the time frame that you would work on. Just keep in mind, the risk is going to be greater. You're not going to be looking at 100 points of risk. You're going to be looking at probably 1,500 points of risk or 2,000 points of risk on a 4-hour chart, even on a 1-hour chart. The Trade Scanner defines that. So that's the pretty much, so those are the key levels: 64K area, 66K to 67K area. This is the scenario to anticipate for the week. Don't know if it will happen. Now, I want to just say something about this real quick, about isolating scenarios and narrowing a range of outcomes to try to place a probability on a particular outcome so that you can take a risk or justify a risk. That is what we do as speculators, particularly day traders and swing traders. Investing is not the same thing. So we're not going to talk about investing here. I want to compare this for a moment to playing poker. I bring up that analogy a lot. The markets are not exactly like poker, but there are many similarities. And I want to point out one in this type of situation. You have to understand something when you look at a chart. We're looking at incomplete information here. And there's a lot of information on this chart that is hidden from us. This is why we basically are playing a random game most of the time. I see some arguments where people are saying the markets are not random and I'm going to prove it to you. The markets are not 100% random. They're not. But they are mostly random. This is a very important concept. I know people, they roll their eyes. Oh, okay, here we go with the random talk again. I don't make any money with this. If you don't understand these concepts, you have no chance in this game. You need to understand the random nature, because the random nature basically says that you cannot forecast where the market will be at any time. Not really. Sure, we could look out a week, maybe 2 weeks, and we can sort of put an estimate and a probability. But there's no way to know, right? Like when we were pushing 53K, people were calling for 45K. Never went to 45K. Whenever we're pushing a move up like this, people are calling 80K, 90K, 100K. We don't know if we'll get there. So far, we haven't. There's no way to know with any degree of certainty. So let me bring up my poker example. So we're dealing with incomplete information. We have to use a chart, and we have to extract particular but subtle pieces of information to kind of get a sense of what that incomplete information is. What am I talking about? What incomplete information? Well, we cannot see. I don't care what anyone says about these order books and all this other nonsense, right? Oh, I have the order book on Coinbase. It's your Coinbase Pro. I can see everything. You can't see anything. We don't know who is actually selling right there. We don't know if it's a large institutional player who has a ton of size to unwind. We don't know. If we knew that, we could make a more informed decision, couldn't we? Or maybe there's a group of large institutions here. You know, all those nonsense ETFs that were buying at 25K. Maybe they're getting rid of stuff here, and we can't see their orders because they only put one contract out at a time or whatever. And it's usually an algo that does this. It's not a person. So they hide their orders, right? They know what they're going to sell. Perhaps they call each other up and say, hey, are you going to sell this? Yeah, I'm going to sell that. That's called collusion. That's illegal in other markets, but in this market, it's probably still doable. So you have to realize we have a very incomplete picture, right? That's my point. So here's my poker analogy. You have to look for subtle hints that may appear on maybe a smaller time frame chart, or maybe on the time frame you're working on, but you have to look for subtle hints. So when you're at a poker table, let's imagine this for a moment. If you don't play poker, don't worry. You'll still understand the example. If you're at a table, right, 10 players at the table, 5 of them are regulars, 5 of them maybe new, maybe not. They're not regulars, right? These are people that are not regular to the table. The regulars sit here every day for 10 hours a day playing poker. They know each other's tricks. They know each other's tells, right? So a new guy comes along. This guy, you don't know if he's new. He could be a pro from somewhere else, right? No one knows who he is. He shows up, and as soon as the dealer hands out the cards, right, this guy gets one of his cards, and he looks at the card right away because he's excited to see what it is. That right there is a typical tell of someone that is less experienced, because an experienced player typically waits until it's their turn to act before they look at their cards. Why do they do that? Does it matter? Yeah, because if you don't know what you have, all of your behavior is meaningless to the guys around you that are looking for any subtle hint of strange behavior. So let's say these guys have been watching you for an hour and you have a funny twitch when you have a big hand. Oh, I got aces, right? You look, and then your eye just twitches, right? For whatever reason. They notice every time your eye twitches, you bet big, you go all in, right? And then you flip your cards, and it turns out you have aces. So now these pros are like, okay, let's see what happens the next time his eye twitches. So they start to understand your behavior, and they look for these very, very subtle tells. As a professional or as an experienced poker player, you're trying to give as little information as possible away to the guys around you. Even the way you bet, where you're sitting at the table, any strange behaviors or movements, the way your eyes look. That's why they wear sunglasses, right? They can spot these very subtle things. So my point is, in the same way, the market is very similar, where you're not looking for a tell of one person. You're looking for a tell of a group of people. Typically, the inexperienced retail trader who make the same mistakes over and over at particular areas that you can anticipate. That's actually what's happening. So what typically happens here is all the retail traders. They listen to their fake gurus. The fake gurus are saying it's going to a million. You're going to be a millionaire, blah, 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 right? You know that story. They all start buying it because it looks strong. This thing looks great. They buy the high, they buy the breakout. Maybe it goes higher, but the thing is, over time, buying here is typically a bad idea. Just ask the people who bought here and held on to this thing's going to 100K. I can feel it. Yeah, it went straight to 53K. So buying highs is typically not a good idea. It's a common mistake because it's human nature to expect a line to continue, right? This line, the market is drawing a line here, these green candles. It's a line, it's linear. So we automatically like to project because we need to have order in our minds. We like to think that it's going to do this because that's what lines do. They continue, right? Yes, they may continue, but the further the line goes, the less and less people are buying, which you can't see. The less and less, there's more and more of an absence of buying. That's the word I was looking for. Absence of buying as it pushes higher, even though the candles may be closing higher and higher. We can't see the order flow. We can't see how the positions are changing amongst the players that move the markets. We can't see this. So we have to basically look for mistakes or look for typical behaviors that kind of give us a sign that this thing is going to behave in a particular way at a particular level. And the signs that we're looking for are rooted in the mistakes that the retail traders typically make in such scenarios. Does that make sense? So I hope you got something from my poker analogy. I hope it made sense to you guys. Okay, Alex. Yeah, thanks. Don't forget to press the like button. Is the wave 5 of the impulse from 56K? That's a good question. All right, so let me just make sure, guys, if you have any other questions about what I covered here, let me know. I just wanted to give you some perspective and some insight into what's going on here and what to anticipate before I get into actual trade setups. All right, so this is an area, obviously, to be looking for shorts, aggressive shorts. Can this thing keep going? It's possible, but it's a lower probability. Probabilities have two sides, right? There's the side that's right, 50%, 60%, whatever. And then there's a possibility of failure. That's when you're dealing with probabilities, it's always the case. There's no way to know 100% it's going to go up here. There's no way to know. But I would argue that the higher it goes, the less of a chance it's going to continue higher because nothing moves in a straight line. I mean, there's plenty of evidence of that in recent time. So why would it break out now? Is there any particular catalyst going on? Is there something? There needs to be something very powerful to push this thing way through here. So I don't care what anyone says. There's no way to know. So you have to work with what you have. You have to work with the levels that give us certain tells where certain types of behaviors are likely to occur. And then we have to look for the confirmation. Without the confirmation, it doesn't matter what we think. We could think all day long, oh, it's a short, it's a short. I could think that all day long. If this candle closes strong, the next candle comes out and closes green above, strong like this, we do that, well, then it's not a short until we get the right confirmation. Does that make sense? Very important. So this little move that I'm anticipating here requires confirmation. We have none yet. The confirmation can come from the TradeScanner Pro. That's the whole purpose of having the TradeScanner Pro. I'm laying out the context here. I'm laying out the perspective. Now you can go to your tool and you can say, okay, I know what I'm looking for now. I should be in counter trend mode. I'm looking for reversals. We're at the right level. You just have to decide what time frame you want to do that on. Since this is near range highs, this might be appropriate for a larger time frame short, rather than trying to short this thing like over here, for example, or near the lows. The hype is growing. Trump is expected to speak on Bitcoin. Oh, that's interesting. Bitcoin conference, huh? When is that? There's a rumor that he wants to put Bitcoin. Well, I know he's pro Bitcoin. I saw some stuff about that, which I thought was very interesting. So, maybe this has something to do with that. I don't know. I don't like to anchor to news because some other news can come out the next day that completely negates it. I don't go by news. News does not tell us the future. News is old news. By the time we get it, it's ancient. So I'm looking for changes, and I'm looking at behavioral levels. That is much more accurate than news will ever be, just so you know. But I know you know that, Alex. I'm just letting beginners know. So that's my story with Bitcoin. Any questions about that? So there's a question here. Hey, Giovanni, good to see you. About the wave count, the impulse. That's a very good question. Hey, Milad, good to see you too. There's a question about this impulse. What impulse? Well, you have wave 1 over here. You have wave 2. You have your big wave 3. Looks like actually I was looking at this whole thing. 1, 2, this whole structure from this low. I'm going to draw an arrow there. From this low right here to this high is wave 3. That's what I'm looking at as wave 3 of the impulse. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 waves in that. So we're likely looking at a wave 4, Dijon, which is in line with my pullback scenario to 64K. And wave 1 of that impulse is like all the way over here. So chances of overlapping that, it's going to take a long time for that to happen. This thing's really going to have to pull back and waste a lot of time and, all that. So that's nowhere in the vicinity of overlapping. So this impulse is likely to stick around for a while. Make sense? So we're looking for basically a wave 4 of this entire impulse that's in line with my scenario. So even if I don't know wave counts, I can still call it. This is the entire structure. This pullback that I have labeled here or illustrated here, that would be the wave 4 of this entire structure. Then looking for the wave 5. The wave 5 in that scenario could take us back to the high. That's within reason, but we have to have the wave 4 first. And if we don't get that pullback, at some point, it's going to pull back. Markets don't move in straight lines. When we get that broader pullback, and we're likely to see some type of consolidation, broader consolidation, that's most likely our wave 4. And then the chances are one more leg higher. If that occurs at a much higher level, maybe we break out. Maybe we work our way to 83K. 83K, by the way, is the next major area. 80 to 83K is like the next. After 75 is an area, but 80 to 83, I had done some measurements on that, and that's a potential inflection point. Okay, so again, that's not a forecast. Don't know if it's going to go there, but if it goes there, think of it this way. It's not a place to be buying. You should not be buying at 80 to 83K and expecting this thing to go further. A lot of retail, inexperienced traders and investors, they will buy there. And what typically happens. Okay, so one more thing I want to point out. Again, about the incomplete picture that I was talking about before. You guys like my poker analogy? I hope you understood that. I want to point something out about this range. Clearly, we've been in a range since March, since the March peak. So again, talking about what we don't see, what's hidden from us. Clearly, going back before we got into this range, there's like a pullback into this area here, and there's a bottom here, right? The bottom, which is what is 25K, and then it goes even lower to 15K. If we were able to see, maybe there were like the ETF companies, Vanguard and whoever, and if we were able to actually see them in the order book accumulating, and we see them at levels like this, putting in orders, even if they're buying one at a time, we can still see them, right? Imagine if we can see them, how much confidence you would have because they're accumulating. And then as the market starts to break out, like for example, a level like this, you still see them buying. Imagine if we could see that. We don't see that, but imagine if you could see that. Or a level like this, you're like, oh, okay, pulling back, nope. And then you see a large market maker or a large institution on the bid, and you look at your time and sales and you see these huge prints going off, and it's this guy buying. It has his name next to it and he's buying. You're like, man, this guy, they're buying. Okay. And then you start to notice when price, because again, even when you see that type of activity, if you were able to put who the buyer was, if you were able to identify exactly who they were and what they were doing, even if you knew how much they had to buy, which that information would never be known. They'll never share that information. There's still no way to know how high the market's going to go. There's no way to project that in the future. So all of these frauds and all of these clowns who come out and say, oh, Bitcoin's going to 100K. How many times have we heard that? It's going to go to 100K. Or when it pulls back, oh, it's going to go to 50K. Oh, it's going to go to 20K this time. They don't know. They're just coming up with random numbers. The only warning we had here was this 10,000 point day in one day. See that candle? Because if someone was going to continue to buy aggressively, or if there were a group of companies buying, whoever, because we don't know, you shouldn't see a dramatic pullback in one day like this. That means someone stopped. That's usually some kind of hint, some kind of clue. But then you say, oh, but it continued higher. It went to the higher high. Right, because they got, by this point, retail traders were excited. So who do you think continued this move higher? And look, since then, we have never gone beyond that point. Look at that. We've never gone beyond that point. What do you think changed? What was the catalyst all through here? And what do you think changed? Whoever was buying stopped. And then who do you think gets stuck with it? Right? And this is all the retail trader action. In fact, they can use this to unload. They're most likely getting out of stuff. Imagine if we could see those same people who were buying at much lower levels. Imagine if we could see their orders. And it just so happens to be around these levels. Who do you think is going to take it off their hands? Other large players? Or do you think retail traders like us who believe fake gurus and we believe our RSI and we believe that we believe we know what's going on because we see some chart on the surface and we don't understand what's going on in the background? Who do you think takes it off their hands? That is how this game works. If you don't want to believe that, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to find that in a book somewhere. No one's going to tell you that exactly. Because if we actually knew for sure that's how it worked, no one would play this game. Because we have no advantage. Like we can't, that's why for us, the game is random. For an institution or Nancy Pelosi, the game is non-random because they have information that we don't have. I believe if we had all the right information, the markets are non-random because we would know exactly who's got what and we could make very well-informed decisions based on the supply and demand of who actually has what and what they're doing. Similar to like what happens at a poker table. We can see this, we can see that, we can see this, and we know what to do. We know how to bet, but we don't have that information. So for us, it's random. So all these guys who are, the markets are not random. They're not random at all. For us, they are. That's the way you have to look at it. All right. Anyway, enough of my rants. Let me see here. Alex, the COT data. Yeah, you know what? I'm familiar with the Commitment of Traders report. I'm very skeptical. First of all, the report is delayed. You don't get that in real time. It's interesting, but it would be nice if it was in exactly real time, right? Because you could see the institutional versus the non-institutional orders or order flow or whatever, the positioning, who's long, who's short sort of thing. But I don't think that information certainly doesn't help day to day. Maybe it helps on the bigger picture, but I've never found any value in it. Again, it'd be nice if we had it in real time so we know when changes are actually happening, not 3 days after the fact or whenever they publish it. It's useless. Why can't they give it to us in real time? I'm sure they can collect that information in real time, but they don't want the public. The public, for one, cannot have an advantage. If we had an advantage, then the professionals would not make money. The institutions would not make money. There was a time, and this is when I started, there was a time when there was a level playing field. It was a very brief time. And I saw a lot of guys, regular guys, make a lot of money very quickly. And that money comes out of someone's pocket. But back in those days, algos were a minority. The NASDAQ was mostly day traders, and they trade against each other, and market makers, which back in those days were people. Automation was rare back in those days. It was happening, but it was a minority. So when we had an equal playing field, anyone could make money. It was amazing. You just walked in, you press some buttons, like all the magic that the fake gurus tell us today. It actually existed at one time, and I saw it. I was there for that. That's how I started out. I had no clue what was going on. I had no idea even how I was making money. But now I can tell you, looking back with the perspective and the experience that I have now, I can tell you exactly what was happening and why we were able to make money in those days, and why it's not possible to make the money like the way it was in those days, why it's not possible today. And a lot of it has to do with laws that were created to give the institutions a clear advantage. Just like when you go to a casino, the house always wins. It's always been sort of like that. Technology kind of changed it a bit, but they changed it back. So we have a very hard game to play, right? So that's the reality of it. It's possible to win, but it's hard. It's very hard. So you have to be committed. If you're one of these, like, I need to make money now kind of people, I'm looking for magic money, you're just going to fail. I can't help you with that. You'll figure it out on your own after a couple of months, and you'll go start selling shoes, because you're not going to make money in this game. Okay. There's no magic money. I was watching a fake guru just the other day, right? On his P&L thing, on his thumbnail, I made $61,000 in this trade. And I'm watching the video and I was like, okay. And I'm piecing together, like, he's showing these strategies and stuff. I'm like, this doesn't work. Like, sure. If you put on a gigantic position and you make 30 pips, it was a Forex thing. Sure, you could make that money, but most likely it was a practice account. Of course, he doesn't say that. I'm not going to get into all the details, but the point is they put out these big numbers and they make it sound like all this and it's fake. Anyway, all right, enough of that. Let's get into the other part of this stream here. So you guys clear on this Bitcoin situation? You guys understand what's going on here, right? So we can't make any judgments until we get the confirmation. All right. Now, before I get into the next part, I want to get into the Trade Scanner Pro. Now, here's what we're going to do today. This is what I want to do. First, let me change this chart over here. We're going to change this to the Bitcoin perp. We're going to put the MEXC on here so that the charts match. It doesn't matter really, but it's nice when they match. I have the Trade Scanner Pro here on this. This is the daily time frame. We know that Trade Scanner Pro is on because you could see this little thing up here, this little box that the trend is bullish on this time frame. We're going to change this to an hourly chart. I'll talk about why in a moment. But this is what I want to do today. I want to get into looking for trades. So like I was saying before, I want to start doing maybe like a pre-market stream, like at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I'm going to maybe hopefully try one out this week. I'm not going to do it every day, but I'd like to do a pre-market stream. I know not many of you may not be able to, maybe not be a convenient time for you guys, but a pre-market stream. The whole point of the pre-market stream will be to find trade ideas that may be good for the coming session or the coming day. We can do that right now. So I can give you a look into what that may look like right now, because we could look at markets that may be setting up for something tomorrow. It doesn't have to be just Bitcoin. So so we're going to start with the hourly chart here. So let me explain real quick how this thing works for those of you that don't know. So the Trade Scanner Pro is my trend following momentum reversal system. It's a script that you can get here for TradingView. Here's how it works in 3 steps. First, it identifies a trend, which it tells you up here. Trend is bullish or trend is bearish. In this example, it's bullish. Then it looks for a pullback. That's the second step. It identifies a pullback. Once the pullback is identified, it looks for a confirmation of a momentum reversal on the side of the trend, which is typically something like this. When all of that confirms, it will show a trade suggestion in the form of orders that look like this. You have a stop loss that appears usually here. You have an entry price here, and you have a take profit that typically appears 1.5 times what your stop loss is. That is how it works in trend mode. Now, there's also something called counter trend mode, which is for more advanced traders. Counter trend mode looks for trades or signals that are generated against the trend. In this case, the trend is bullish, so this would be counter trend here. You have to switch that mode. How do you know when to switch it? Well, it's going to depend on what you're looking for. I tell beginners to start out with a 15-minute chart and just work in trend mode just to get a feel for how it works, right? And also watch all my videos and watch my streams, and you'll have a much better education as to how it works. So that's how it works in a nutshell. Now, there are special features. This, right, by the way, I pushed the new version of the TradeScanner Pro a couple of days ago. Thank you, Steen, for making that available. The new version has an updated settings panel, as you could see here. He created a color section. You can change and customize the colors of pretty much the whole thing. Okay, so you have like a section here, the heads up section. You could change the colors. You could change the background colors. Also, there's a background to the heads up. I'll show you all that in a minute. There's the previous trade colors. You could change that. There's the trade itself, the colors for that. So you have that section right there. All right, you have the trailing stop color. There's also trailing stop mode, which was corrected. You'll see here that there's tight, there's regular, and there's loose. Tight means it's a tight trailing stop. It's going to be very sensitive, and it's going to get you out pretty quickly if the market pulls back, if you're trying to ride a winner. Regular is the standard setting, and loose means you're trying to give the market more room to breathe. So the trailing stop won't be so sensitive. So that's, again, for more advanced traders, but that has been corrected, right? When you get the TradeScanner Pro, usually all of these buttons are turned off. You have to turn them on. So I turned the trailing stop on. I turned on previous trade ideas. That shows us historical trades, which you can replay, especially if you have a premium version of TradingView. You can replay smaller time frames. Then there's heads up, and then there's counter trend. Okay, so I'm going to leave counter trend off here for a moment. Heads up is a warning. As you can see here, this orange candle tells us that a signal is likely to appear soon. That's what that is, in the next 3 to 5 candles. Now listen carefully. 3 to 5 candles. So if you're on an hourly chart, for example, a signal may appear in the next 3 to 5 hours. For the purposes of looking for trades for tomorrow, we're going to use an hourly chart because we're going to assume that you're going to start watching from the market open, at least for stocks. We'll look at a stock or two. Also notice the background has a color. So this was looking for long, right? Green means it was looking for a long signal. You could change that color like I just pointed out, but this is so that you don't miss the heads up. Sometimes the candles are very small and they're very easy to miss. Like over here, like this candle is very small. You may have missed that. You may have missed this one, but you can't miss it when you have this column, this background color. Okay. So if you don't like that background color, you could just simply change the color to the same color as your chart, and it'll be invisible. Okay, let me see what you guys say in the chat. Okay, so you have to remove, to get the new version, you have to remove the old version, right? You go to your TradeScanner Pro up here, right? You remove it by clicking on this garbage can, and then you add it back to your chart. And I still get the same back. You don't see the updates. Yeah, you have to get out of the platform, close the platform completely, and then go back. I don't know why that works that way, but that's a TradingView thing. Okay, so that's how that works, and you guys all should have that. Okay, cool. You guys, when I do the update, you guys should get the notification. If you press the boost button on the profile of the TradeScanner Pro, on my profile on TradingView, if you press the boost button, whenever I do an update, you should get a notification from TradingView that lets you know that I've updated the script. Okay, so anyway, so I showed you all this, right? And I'm planning to make some how-to videos on the control panel and counter trend mode and all that. But there are some YouTube videos you can watch also on my channel that explain these things. And every stream that I do each week, I explain a lot of the same things over. So you should watch them. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look for trades for tomorrow, for the next session, right? And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look for heads up. We're going to look for orange candles, and I'm going to look on a larger time frame. So we don't have to look at just Bitcoin, right? Well, I want to look at some other markets. So if you have a market that you want to see, put it in the channel now, and I'll see if we can take a look. But right now, I'm going to start with a stock, okay? Now, popular stock, of course, is GameStop. All the retail traders love GameStop. Let's see what's going on with GameStop and if there's anything worth looking at here, right? This is GameStop. Now, this has the pre-market and the aftermarket. That's what these columns represent. So it could be a little confusing, but I'm not going to turn that off right now because I'm going to be switching this to Forex and stuff like that. But let's look around here for a moment. This is an hourly. I'm going to go to a 30-minute. Again, the idea here is, can we find something for tomorrow? Now, I am not in counter trend mode. Look at this. This is trend mode. The trend is bearish. There was a warning 30 or like an hour ago, and the signal is now, actually the signal is in play. Now the stock market is still open. We have a few minutes, right, till it closes. This might be a good choice for tomorrow. It's a short. It's calling GameStop short on the 30-minute chart. So if you play GameStop, if you trade this stock, here's your trade idea. You don't even have to wait for the signal because it's present right now. So you would wait till tomorrow's open, or maybe pre-market tomorrow, and maybe you'll be somewhere inside this vicinity. Look, this is your risk right here. What is that? So 25.94. You could put your stop at basically 26, right? You'd put your stop there. You'd short this thing around this price. Again, wait till tomorrow and do it on paper. So if you have the Trade Scanner Pro and you trade stocks, the signal is there. And look, the heads up was there. You can see the heads up, and it's bearish. And we know this thing has been bearish. So this would be great if this closes, right? And then tomorrow you take out this low right here. That would be a great sign to short GameStop. And you say, well, how far is it going to go? This is what the Trade Scanner Pro projects here, which is what? $24.15. That's your take. That would be your price, your profit objective. So how many points is that? Just over $1. $1.08. Okay, $1.08. That's your profit objective. Now, keep in mind, it can go beyond that, but that's your initial. That's what your expectation should be, and then you can let the trailing stop take care of the remainder of the trade if there's a runner. So let's measure the risk. So it's $1.08. Your risk is 71 cents. That's 1.5 to 1 reward risk. You're risking 71 cents on GameStop to make $1.08. Now, again, you don't take this trade now. This is something for tomorrow at the open, and I would recommend doing it on paper. Try it out on paper. You can paper trade on TradingView. Okay, so that's one example. And this is what I want to do pre-market. So imagine if this was before the market opened tomorrow at like 8:30 a.m. and we're uncovering things like this. With the Trade Scanner Pro, you're prepared. You should see the same thing on your Trade Scanner Pro. I'm just showing you where to look and what to look for, right? And the whole idea behind this. Now, one other thing though, before, and this is again, first you spot the signal. I was just looking for the heads up, but we have a signal. Okay. The heads up was basically telling you wait for the signal. The next question is, does this make sense? Is this a signal we're interested in? Well, look at the structure. Lower high, right? Lower high. So the general structure is bearish. That makes sense on the 30-minute. Okay. Is a lower low likely? Yeah, but where are we in compared to support levels? There's a support level right around there, it looks like. Okay, there's maybe a support slightly lower, look by the take profit area. So that's within reason. It's not like we're shorting the bottom. We're shorting a pop-up and a potential lower high. So that trade makes sense. Doesn't guarantee that it'll work out, but it's in line with the general structure when we just zoom out a bit and look for some context. Now, you could zoom out. Instead of using a 30-minute, you could go to like a 4-hour, or you can go to a daily and be like, well, what does the bigger picture look like? I mean, this is GameStop on the 4-hour. It tried to bounce. And then, in fact, on the 4-hour, there was a warning for a long trade. Look at this. Warnings right here for longs. And then look at this candle. I mean, this is a nasty candle. Is that right? GameStop had a jump like that? That could be a bad tick. I wonder if that's the same thing here. I'm going to just put a reference point here. I'm just going to put that. Let me go back to the 4-hour. Oh, that is it. Okay, that's it. That's the same level. So a conflicting signal may appear on the 4-hour. You may get a long signal here. So you have to decide, you want to go with the short or do you want to wait for the long? I mean, it's possible to have two signals operating at the same time because, I mean, look at the big picture here. This thing had a massive pullback. This momentum is bearish. So the 30-minute still makes sense. But the 4-hour is giving us a bullish warning. And look at this. The trend is bullish on the 4-hour. It hasn't changed yet. So this thing could be a long on even larger time frame. So you have to again decide: do you want to work on the 30-minute? Do you want to work on the 4-hour? Because there's two pieces of information. You stick to one and you follow it. Usually the bigger picture carries more weight. So that if you want to wait for a signal on the 4-hour, keep in mind the signal may appear in the next 3 to 5 candles. That could be a couple of days. That could take a couple of days on the 4-hour chart. So what do you do? Like, do you have to sit in front of your chart for a couple of days? No, you simply go here to your notifications, right? On TradingView, you click on this, and then you pick the TradeScanner Pro. All of you that have the TradeScanner Pro can do this, and then you just create this. Now, if you have the free version of TradingView, you can only do one. That's the limitation. If you have a paid version of TradingView, you could set more. That may be important if you're doing things like this, looking at stocks, looking at multiple markets, right? You get the idea? So that's where the value of having a paid version of TradingView can help. And if you don't have a paid version and you're going to sign up for one, please use the affiliate link so at least Stian gets something out of that. All right, so see that? So we're analyzing some potential opportunities here. So there's a potential long on the bigger picture, but there's a short that's in play now, which means tomorrow at the open, you're looking at GameStop short. Now, sure, something can change overnight and this thing could stop out. So you don't take the trade now, you prepare for tomorrow. And you look at these candles, I'm like, all right, we take out this 30-minute low, I'm going short. And you know where to place to stop, you know where to put the place to take profit. Okay, makes sense? So that's GameStop. Now, if you want to sign up for the TradeScanner Pro, let me just go over this real quick. You're like, oh, how do I get this thing? I'm going to show you. So first, let me just type in the link in the chat here. Okay, so it's, hopefully I spell it correctly. Sometimes I can't see. Okay, that should be correct. And I'm going to show it to you on the screen here. All right. So you type that into your browser, and that will take you to this website right here. This is the only website you should see. You scroll through this page, it explains how the TradeScanner Pro works. It tells you a little bit about me, and then it takes you over here to the registration section. You can try it for 14 days for free. Now, if you sign up for the yearly, it's $22.50 per month. It's pretty good. If you sign up for the monthly, it's $30 a month. So you're saving 25% if you sign up for the yearly. By the way, that monthly price is going to change. I should be getting double that price. But if you want to lock in a low price, you still have the chance to do that. So I suggest you do it. You click on this button right here, and this takes you to the registration page. And on the registration page, you fill out this right over here. You have to make sure you put in your TradingView username. That's the most important part. I mean, yeah, of course you have to fill out the other parts, but without the TradingView username, we can't send you an invite. Now, please listen to the next thing I'm about to tell you. The invite takes up to an hour to receive. So you're not going to receive it instantly. Usually it comes sooner, but it takes up to an hour. You're going to receive an email that explains to you that it takes up to an hour, right? You're going to get an email. And then when you receive your invite, you're going to get another email that says you've received the invite. Please don't send me 10 million emails asking me how come you haven't received the invite yet, and it's only been like 5 minutes. If that's your level of patience, please don't sign up. You're going to fail. If you can't handle that with no money on the line, you will fail, because you have to have a lot of patience for the market. All right. Anyway, so that's how you sign up for it. Now so that's GameStop. All right. Anyone? I don't see any stocks in the chat or any symbols. You guys want to see anything? Let me know. We'll take a look. Let's switch over to something else here. Let's take a look at a Forex pair. Let's take a look at the pound dollar. Okay? Because again, we don't always have to do Bitcoin. So this is the pound. Now, again, this would be appropriate for the next session, which I mean, the Asian session you have at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Markets are typically quiet. 3 a.m. Eastern time is usually when, London open is usually when Forex really starts moving again. That's usually where the volume comes in. So let's see what we can find here. Is there anything on the pound? Yeah, I was going to look at that, but GameStop was the stock. So I want to show like a Forex pair. And then maybe if we have time, we'll do some 1 minute charting. But thank you, Steen. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. So the pound, right? There's no warning. There's a trade in play. So you can look at this. Here's the thing. So this is a short. Let's go back to when it comes to Forex, looking at it like a larger time frame doesn't hurt either. This is a 4-hour. Trend is bullish. Does that make sense with the picture that we see? Yes. Higher lows and higher highs. We've pulled back a bit. Got some warning here. We can see the green columns. And it's trying to turn around. This is a higher low. So do I really want to short this? I should probably be weary of shorts. And my 30-minute is calling a short. All right, look, the 30-minute is calling a short. So I probably should not be so excited about this short. You see that? Because the 4-hour kind of says, I don't know about that. So it's probably a higher probability to wait for the signal to appear on the 4-hour. It may take a couple of days or a day or something, but that seems to be more in line with the bigger picture structure. So you see, the heads up is what tells us that. A signal is likely to appear in the next 3 to 5 candles. It looks like we have about 5 candles here. This close, or maybe the next one, may generate a signal on the 4-hour. But you say, well, the 4-hour is too much for me. I don't like the risk on a 4-hour. Okay, so then let's look at a 1-hour. Look. There's a long on the 1-hour. Looks like there was some heads up over here. It looks like it failed. It looks like there's a couple of stop outs on the 1-hour. It looks like this one here. Looks like there was a couple of signals here, which almost stopped out. And it keeps going through this entry price. Every time when the market goes above and below, it keeps fooling around the entry price, you can consider that an opportunity. So the pound, we can consider this long. It aligns with the bigger picture. I would probably be more interested in the long side than the short side because we're coming off of a higher low, not a resistance area on that 4-hour. You saw that, right? So this is tricky. This may stop out, but this is what I'd be more interested in. So what kind of risk are we looking at here? This is an hourly chart. So you see, I jumped around a couple of time frames and I'm putting the puzzle pieces together. What is that? That's about 24, what is it, 29 even. So this is about 30 pips. I mean, it's a little less than 30 pips risk. Less than 30, but it's not bad for the pound. And the the profit objective is what? 35 pips. Okay. I mean, those aren't major numbers. Keep in mind, if the bigger picture trend reasserts itself, it's very likely we go beyond this. That is how you make money, not just the profit objective, right? The profit objective is a place to take something off the table and reduce risk. But the idea is to let the trade ride. And that's the whole point of having the trailing stop and taking advantage of the random nature of the market rather than being robbed by it all the time. If this thing goes beyond the take profit, right, you'll have your trailing stop will look like this, but it'll be orange, and then it'll start to follow the trade as the market continues going your way, and you may have a situation that looks like this if that bigger picture reasserts itself and never pulls back. In fact, if I go into counter trend mode, actually, no, you know what? Look, there's a long over here. See this long? Let's replay that real quick so you have an idea of what that looks like. So we're going to go back here. right? That was a long trade. Is that right? It went right to the stop. Let's see here. I think this is that too. I don't understand this. Looks like it touched the stop, but the trade is still open. That's weird. Okay, maybe there's something. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but let's just see. This is. I want to show you an example of the trailing stop. So the trailing stop. You see how it came up and starting to follow the trade. See it? It went. Look, it's at the take profit. See that? And it's probably going to get stopped out, but not yet. This keeps you in the trade. If the trade, if there's a sustained move, you're still in it. There, it stopped out, and the trade vanished off the chart. You see that? Now you say, oh, well, it gave back all this. Well, you're never going to get the top. You're never going to get out up here with a trailing stop, even at the most tight version. Let me see if I could find another example of that. Let's see. I'm just looking for an example that I can show you where it trails and it captures a larger move. Let's try this one. Maybe this one. So let's go here, right? Let's see what this thing produces. Now, again, it doesn't always work out. These things stop out. But what I want to show you is the whole point of the trailing stop is really the whole point of the Trade Scanner Pro. Here's the trailing stop. It starts to follow it. Now, at this point, the trailing stop has made your trade risk-free. At this point, if it goes back to your entry price, you don't lose anything. The price goes beyond the take profit, and you try to hold on to at least part of the position. Let's say you had 2 mini lots. You closed one at the take profit, and now you're trying to hold on to one. How far does this thing go? The trailing stop is now going beyond the take profit. So it keeps you in the trade if you respect it. Now, at some point, it's going to get stopped out. Of course, we all want it, we all want to get out here, but that's not going to happen. The point of the trailing stop is it keeps you in the trade longer. See, it tapped you out. Okay. It keeps you in normal than you would have. So in certain markets where there are very dramatic moves and they don't pull back, you capture bigger moves. That's the way to do it. That's how you ride the runner. Make sense? Okay, so I'm going to turn this off now. Gold. Okay. You want to take a look at gold? We can take a look at gold. So we had the pound, right? We took a look at GameStop. So you guys know what to look for on the pound tomorrow, all right? You want to look at gold, XAU, USD. Okay, this is gold. Gold is probably going to be similar to a lot of Forex pairs, but let's take a look. So we're looking for trade ideas, right? First, we're looking for any warnings. Right now, I am not in counter trend mode. I'm in trend mode. Yeah, as a beginner, this is really where you want to work with trend mode first. The trend is bearish, so this thing's looking for shorts, right? That's what this thing is looking for. I have some resistances here. This is a 1 hour. So let's look around here. Let's take a look at anything on a 4 hour. The 4 hour is showing me a trade here. It's showing me a long. Well, on the 4 hour, the trend is still bullish. You have to make sure you check that, because the trend is going to be dependent on the time frame, and that's very important. Like if I was working on a 1 minute, for example, and we were at a level like a support, and I'm looking for longs, my trend is bearish on the 1 minute. The only way to get to longs is I have to go into counter trend mode. That's where that comes in. I have other videos where I explain that extensively, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, so this is a nice pullback. This looks very similar to a lot of those other markets. It looks very similar to that pound situation. I'm not surprised. Also, look what else we have here. Bullish pin bar, where the long signal was called on that candle. Look at that. Well, actually, it's not a pin bar. It's not the best example of a pin bar because it has an upper part to it, right? The upper wick there. But still, the most important part is the signal was called. So you're long on gold. So it's saying gold is long. So perhaps for tonight's session or tomorrow's session, you're looking at gold long. Now, if you're using the Trade Scanner Pro, we're signals are appearing as we're looking right now, but really where you want to start is with the heads up. Okay, heads up. This tells us that a signal was coming soon, and it came. So what's the risk on this thing? 20, almost 27 points. We would say 26 points is the risk on gold, and the reward, 39 points. You could round that to 40 points. It doesn't have to be exact. You could round to the round number, and there you go. So there's gold long, and it makes sense on the bigger picture. That idea makes sense. Also, not only do you have a pin bar situation, but this is a failed low. And look at this. Old resistance, new support. Failed low at new support. So a lot of things line up there. This and again, the Trade Scanner Pro. So that's knowing that. You could have known that in advance. You could have picked this area in advance. You could have said, okay, we got a support level at, what is this? 2391 area. So 24 area. And then the Trade Scanner Pro confirms, I got a long signal in an area where I was anticipating a long signal. I mean, look at this green column. The green column said, heads up, looking for longs. That's why it's green. If it was red, most likely it would be at a resistance and it'd be looking for shorts, or the trend would be bearish. Okay? So we covered a couple of markets here today, right? We got GameStop, so you should know what to do with GameStop. We look at gold, look at the pound, right? So you have some ideas. If you have the Trade Scanner Pro, I suggest you try to trade one of these ideas on paper, see how it plays out. I showed you how to find the idea, and you can do this every day. I typically like to look on smaller time frames for smaller time frame ideas, but the whole idea is this is what I showed you here is what I would do on a pre-market stream. Do you guys like this format? Would you guys like to see something like this on a pre-market stream? But I would spend more like an hour. I would spend an hour going through, other markets, like maybe a couple more stocks, maybe a couple other Forex pairs, maybe look at some coins, maybe throw Litecoin in there, Ethereum, whatever, Polygon, whatever people are asking for. Would you guys like that type of format? Would you find that valuable? Is my question. Because I know sitting here looking at things after the fact is like, all right, yeah, great. It's after the fact. I get annoyed with those too. So I don't want to do after the fact videos. If I'm going to do after the fact, I'll put it out on Twitter. I'll show you a tweet. Here's what blah, blah, blah after the fact. So at least you don't have to spend an hour watching me talk about it. So Stian says he likes it. He likes the format. I want to hear from you guys. Lad says he likes it. I want some feedback here. You guys, it matters. Your experience matters to me. I don't want to sit here and waste your time if you're like, that sucked. What a waste of time. I don't want to waste your time, because if I'm wasting your time, that means I'm wasting my time. Would be definitely interested. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking basically doing it like once a week right now. I'm not going to do it every day. My schedule just doesn't make that possible. But I'm thinking about, once a week, trying out like a pre-market 8 a.m. That'll be like 8 a.m. Eastern time before the stock market opens, and see, from maybe we could look at a couple of stocks, a couple of Forex pairs, and whatever, and see if you guys if you guys can get away with some ideas that you can actually then test out on your Trade Scanner Pro. Because again, the Trade Scanner Pro is a confirmation tool. All right, so those are the trade ideas, right? So we have the pound, we have gold, we had GameStop. I'm sure if I look, we could find signals. If I scan every single time frame on gold, for example, I'm going to find all kinds of trades. But we have to find one that lines up with the general structure. This is where we're working. I've mentioned this before. Steen is working on a second overlay. An overlay is basically another script that you could lay on top of the chart that will have other information. So our first overlay is going to be support and resistance levels, where it lays them out for you. So you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to sit here and do all the evaluation that I show you. And then after that, the next overlay is going to be the table. And I've talked about the table before. The table is going to be a table where you can input symbols and time frames that you want to monitor on a table. So you don't have to go scanning through the charts like I'm doing here. They'll appear on a table. Say, oh, okay. And you could set the table from trend mode or counter trend mode. You could set the mode, and then you'll see, okay, I got the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute, the 30 minute. And then you'll see the signal go off or the warning go off. And then you don't have to sit there and go through all this. You'll see the signal, and then you can check it out real quick, and it'll save a lot of time and just give you a broader view of symbols that you're interested in. Maybe you're only interested in stocks. Maybe you're only interested in Forex pairs. Maybe you're interested in a combination of Forex, coins, stocks, whatever, bonds. Maybe you trade bonds. You could put whatever you want in the table, and you can customize the time frames. That's going to be another overlay. By the way, those things are not going to be free. Okay, so Stian says here, working on it because I want it to be workable overlay, not just one. Okay, right. So Stian likes to produce quality, as you can see here. I mean, the Trade Scanner Pro, he's refined it. These, he just sent me a recent update, but this is we've been updating this since April. He sent me numerous updates, and he puts a lot of his own time into this. So, as you can see, he likes to put out quality work. And that's good. I like to put out quality work too. I don't want to put my name on something and then, like these fake gurus, and they come out with this nonsense analysis, and they still have the balls to come out after they completely screw all of their followers. They come out and say, oh, well, here's another idea. It's like, oh man. Anyway, I don't like to do stuff like that, as you know. So, all right. So I'm glad you guys are liking the format idea. That's what I'm planning to do. And so I hope you guys can run away with some of these ideas. And next week we can go over paper trade some of these ideas. Let me know how they play out next week. And we can go back and we can replay them, watch them next week or whatever, and see how some of these played out. So gold, pound, and GameStop. 1 hour chart pretty much, or 4 hour chart, right? I know I'm not going to be looking at 5 minute charts. All right, so real quick, now we got that out of the way. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Okay, so we're going to go back to Bitcoin perp. Okay, hold on. I just want to see real quick if there's anything there. All right, we can take a look at multiple time frames real quick too. I mean, when I look at these time frames, sometimes, I've put out tweets on Bitcoin. I've put out some tweets where like this thing's called some pretty amazing, like the 53K bottom, it called longs near there. Okay, this is the 4 hour chart. Okay, so let's just see what Bitcoin's telling us. Because again, we know we're at a major resistance level on Bitcoin, right? So here's the thing. This is a great example for a counter trend idea. Because again, it all starts out with your idea. What are you looking for? You don't just pop up signals and say, okay, I'm jumping in. So we know that this level, where is it at right now? 68.068, right? The 68K area, we know that this is a resistance level. Okay, we know that. So in order for me to, I'm interested in shorts. I mean, right now I'm in trend mode. There's no way I'm going to get longs in this area, right? It's just not going to happen because we're in trend mode. It needs to pull back, like I said before. It needs to pull back to get a long signal. So let's say I'm interested in an aggressive short. This is what you would do. You say, okay, first, I'm interested in an aggressive short. Why? Because it's at a major resistance, and I think there's a greater probability that we reverse here, and at least it's worth something. Okay, it's aggressive though, because you're going against the momentum. So you go to your Trade Scanner Pro, and you say, okay, I want to work on an hourly chart. You decide this in advance. I'm going to work on an hourly chart. Look, interestingly enough, it called this long over here. I guess it stopped out. This is the hourly chart. Gave us some warning, right? Beautiful. Gave us some warning for this long. Okay, that's nice. But I'm interested in shorts for the reasons I just mentioned. So I go to the Trade Scanner Pro settings and I switch to counter trend mode. What does counter trend mode show me? Well, like I said before, it's now ignoring the trend. Look at this. It gave me some warning here. It called the trade here short at 67,809. That trade was actually worth a little something. Never reached the take profit. Went back above the entry price. It's giving me another warning, and the trailing stop has cut the risk. So this trade is a possible swing trade idea. I would suggest paper on paper, okay? But you want to play that aggressive short, here you go. You can wait until this warning candle closes and then the low of the candle is taken out because this is an hourly chart. You don't have to rush into that. You could set your notifications, but there's a signal here, okay? And look, it's messing around with the warning. It's because the candle isn't closed yet. But your risk on this trade is reduced if you take this now. The initial risk on this was 1,087 points, which is not unusual for an hourly chart. Compare this to the pound, right? What was that pound risk? Like 30 pips? This thing's 1,000 points. But now the risk has been reduced. The initial risk was 1,000 points. The current risk, based on the trailing stop, which you have to respect, by the way, if you want to benefit from that, is, what is that? Basically 600 points. So 400 points have been shaved off of the risk. 400 points of risk have been removed. 400 points, thanks to the trailing stop. So again, it may be hard for you to appreciate this as a beginner because you don't understand the nature of risk yet and all that stuff. But this trade, this is a lower risk trade compared to how it started out. And if you take that trade, I mean, that's almost 50% of the risk that's been reduced. If you take this trade, you should take it on paper if you do, and it goes to the take profit. If it happens to go there, that's a 3-to-1 reward risk. If you cut your risk by 50% and then this thing goes to the take profit. Again, there's no way to know if it's going to go to the take profit. We have to bet that since this is a major resistance level, that a pullback to this area here, which is what? 66, like 167, it looks like. There's a decent probability it can do that. And look, it's done it before. It was at that level before. There's a pin bar there, but it's tested. So that level is not like unusual. It's a supportive area and it may test it. And if the selling gets heavy here, it may bust right through because it's a higher potential level or inflection point for such an outcome. Does that make sense? There is one signal. Sell on 5-minute counter trend. Okay, but that's a 5-minute. So how much time we got? I don't know if I'm going to sit here and do a day trade. Maybe I will. We'll take a look. We'll take a look at the 5-minute. But I just want to be clear. If you're looking for these bigger picture trades, right? A trade that's maybe valid for the next session or the next day, here it is. I just showed you. We just went over a few markets where there are signals in play that you can still work with. That's how you work with the Trade Scanner Pro. And again, just to remind you, you don't sit there and wait for it. You just do this. You change this to this, right? You change your notification, change it to Trade Scanner Pro, and then you press create. And then you don't have to wait in front of your computer. Now, mind you, some people, it takes longer. I think it depends on where you're located. Some countries delay the feed and stuff like that. You may have that problem, but typically you should get this notification in a timely manner. It comes from TradingView, not from us. So just something to keep in mind, all right? Now, with that being said, let's go over to, so you have like 4 trade ideas here that you can play with for the next session. Let's go to the 5-minute, like Monica said. She said there's a signal. Okay, let's see what we got here. 5-minute signal. Interesting. So now keep in mind, this is counter trend. We're going against that bigger picture move. We talked about the level. So we know what we're doing here at the level. So the short is something we're looking for. This trade is pretty much new. It started earlier. It's been fooling around a bit, but it's still in an area where it's still it's still takeable, if that's a word. It's still valid. And the trailing stop hasn't started yet. So you have a 5-minute idea. Now keep in mind, time of day. It's now 4:30 in the afternoon. It may go somewhere, it may not. This is usually not a good time of day to look for these type of trades. I put UTC 0 and the signals come within seconds. Oh, nice, lad. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, it's just going to depend on, some people say, you know, the signal takes like an hour. And I'm like, I don't know why it takes an hour. It shouldn't take an hour. Okay. But that may have something to do with the location of the country. Some countries actually delay the data that comes through. They delay the internet. So anyway, thank you for sharing that, lad. So here's a trade. I mean, we can fool around with this. Let's see. Is there anything on a smaller time frame? How about 3 minute? Okay, look, there's one on the 3 minute too. All right, we can fool around with this a bit. Let's see where this goes. So I'll short one. I'll short two. Got two. All right, shorted two. All right, and it's still fooling around. So this is something you would do if you're working on a 3 minute. The risk is, and look, the nice thing about this is the trade was called here. And we almost stopped out. And then it went back to the entry price a couple of times. So I feel a little more confident taking such a trade. It may not work out, but the thing is, it's not like I'm jumping in front of it and it goes straight to the stop. It had the opportunity to do that, and it failed. So that's good. Also, just notice all these warnings along the way. There were plenty of warnings that never materialized into anything. This warning materialized into a trade. The warning doesn't guarantee a trade. It's very important to understand that. A warning is a heads up. It lets you know that a trade is likely to appear, but it doesn't guarantee that a trade will appear. That's also an important point. And just because a trade appears doesn't mean it's going to work. I mean, look at this. That was a short that stopped out. This was a short that probably stopped out. This short may have been worth something and eventually stopped out. So when you're working on these smaller time frames, you're going to be dealing with a lot of noise. That's why I tell beginners, work on larger time frames first, like a 15-minute, 30-minute, hourly. That's why we went over those bigger picture time frame trade ideas, so that you can play with something that's not so erratic and so wild. Smaller time frames can be very noisy. I mean, look at this. It almost went to the stop. I mean, it went almost straight there and then turned right around. So you're going to be dealing with it. It may have stopped out. If it went a little further, you're going to see situations where it goes a little further, right? It does this. Pops up, taps you out, and you're like, oh, that sucked. And then the next trade, it goes right back, right? Then you get the next one, next candle like that, and you're like, and they just shook me out. That's going to happen. And then maybe the candle after that does something like this, and then you get another signal on this candle, right? This candle generates another signal. Typically, when you see something like that, that can happen 2 times in a row. When you see that, that's typically a failed high, or failed, like this type of situation where you see them cluster together. You see them together, right? Or look at this, right? It tries again, and then this is the one. That happens. So you want to find them when they're kind of close together like this. So when you see that, usually the second one or the third one is the one. Because basically what's happening in those situations is the momentum is being absorbed, but just not enough. And then it gets to the point where it turns, right? It's like it's running out of steam, and then it turns. So that may take a couple of tries. Please keep that in mind. Even if you're at a major level, nothing is linear. It doesn't go right to the level and bounce. Occasionally that can happen, but understand there's a very high degree of random movement in this game. All right, cool. Are we guys cool? Are we cool? All right, any questions? So we're just fooling around here. Let's see if this thing turns into anything. If this thing breaks this little minor support here, this little minor support, it breaks that, right? Then maybe it'll give us a little push toward the take profit. Maybe. It's nice to see when you're short, when a large candle like this, a large candle area like this is consumed. This large candle area, I'm going to highlight it. When that's consumed, whatever catalyst created that candle means it's not there. It's gone. Right? We haven't consumed the whole candle yet. That's just a tendency that I noticed when you have these monster candles or a larger candle. When that candle gets consumed, the party's over. And usually what that means is there's a lot of longs stuck in this thing. And if it sells off a bit, right? If it does this, those are the longs getting banged out. shorts piling in, longs exiting, that kind of thing. That behavior repeats itself over and over again. That's very important to understand, especially for intraday. Okay, so I don't see any questions. So real quick, guys, if you want to try the TradeScanner Pro out for 14 days for free, just click on this link that you see here on the screen or the link in the description. It takes you to this page. This is my website, Market Signals Pro. It explains the TradeScanner Pro, it tells you about me, takes you to this sign up section right here. You decide if you want to do yearly, you decide if you want to do monthly. You can cancel anytime. These prices are preliminary. They are going to go up. So if you want to lock it in, this is your opportunity. And you simply click on this. You make sure you put in your TradingView username here. That's all you have to put. You don't have to put anything else about TradingView, just your username, and then wait. Give it at least an hour. Usually you get this. You get the invite earlier than that, but at minimum, give it an hour, and then you'll get an email that explains. You get a welcome email that explains. Wait at least an hour, and then when you receive your invite, you'll get another email, and you'll get your invite on TradingView, and then you can put it on the chart. Okay, that's how that works. Also understand if you join in on any of these other areas like Discord or whatever, TradingView, if you send me a message, understand that I do not initiate messages. So if you send one to me, I'll respond, but I will not send one to you first. And I will especially not ask you for money in a private message or send you to some website other than this website that I'm showing you here. So please understand that. There's a lot of scammers out there that like to take advantage of these type of situations, and I don't want you to be taken advantage of. So if I message you first, chances are it's not me. Block that person, report that person, and let other people know that a scammer reached out to you. In fact, we have a channel for that in the Discord server. We have a channel, report scammers or whatever, to let people know that a scammer reached out to you so other people are aware. Okay. I don't see any other questions. Okay, guys. So this trade isn't going anywhere. I'm not that surprised. I mean, time of day is important. The stock market's closed. So you guys should be prepared now for tomorrow. We went over a couple of markets. You should use your TradeScanner Pro and paper trade the ideas we talked about. I'm going to close this trade because it's not going anywhere. Maybe over the next hour or so, it'll continue. But as you can see, the price action is very slow. What you're seeing here, expect this more and more as the summer continues going into August. This is typical price action. It looks like this. Sure, we had a nice move going into that, but typically it gets very congested like this. Okay? That's what I was talking about before. All right, I'm going to close this trade because it's just not going anywhere. What is this? I guess I have something open there. I don't know what's going on. All right. I thought I was short this thing. Buy it back. Oh, it says I'm long. Okay, let me sell them. Okay, I'm out. All right. This is Bitcoin. Yeah, I got the right thing. Okay. I may have taken the wrong side there by mistake on paper. But whatever. I was supposed to be short. And this is not what I want to see. I'll leave you with this. If you're watching this and you're trying to do this, wait until you get another candle that looks like this. You could try it again. If it goes back below the blue line, the entry line, you can try that. If it goes to the stop, obviously the trade is going to close. And you wait for another signal. All right, but this is, again, why it's easier to work on larger time frames. Make sense? Okay, you guys. So I talk too much as usual, but I want to see if there's anything worth talking about here. So again, go to my website, sign up for the TradeScanner Pro. I hope to see you there. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, around the world, and thank you again for watching.